I didn't realise the harm.
I think something's wrong with Mummy.
Didn't take her feelings into account.
You thought that she could do it and that I wouldn't notice.
You never want your children to see that sort of thing, but they did.
This is M-PACT. M-PACT stands for Moving Parents and Children Together and Away from Addiction, and it's doing it as a whole family. There are something like 3.5 million children living with parents or adults who are binge drinking or worse. It's a huge problem in the UK. You have to think about addiction as a consuming relationship with a substance or a behaviour. Whoever is addicted is consumed, and therefore they haven't got much time for anything else, like making a meal, putting a child to bed, picking them up from school, because you're engaged with something else, and that's all you can think about. Now, some people, even addicted people, will try their best, but they can't give it everything that they need to give it the important business of parenting.
If we think about that, for each person that has an addiction, 4 other people in that family are affected, that kind of gives you an idea of the scale of the problem. The program runs over 8 weeks. It's a 2.5-hour program each week, and it's run by 4 facilitators.
The experience of the young people.
Wherever possible, we try to include all that are willing to engage in the family. That could be a combination of either the whole family or mum and the child. Sometimes the child even comes on their own. We use art medium to help people to tell stories or to express feelings, and we also want them to have fun. So the idea is that it becomes also a social gathering, that people can get together, but also discussing some serious stuff that goes on in the family that often is hidden. The program is really about limiting the harm, give a voice to the children and enable them to talk about how they've been affected by their parents' substance misuse, and also uncovering hidden harm.
We used to sit in the boat park at the age of 14, have a drink, and you pack a polo mints to go home so your mother, you didn't think, smelt it on ya. It started when I was pregnant, the heavy stuff, as in sulphate and cocaine. Their dad was on heroin and that, and I was tired after I was pregnant, and their dad said to me, "This will wake you up." It was sulphate. I had my first dab, felt fantastic. Bleached everywhere, flat looked beautiful. Next day, it was, a couple of more dabs. Before I knew it, I was waking up in the morning with my cup of coffee, a wrap and a spliff. Then I fell pregnant, and we was having Raz, ended up with 5 stitches in my head from him. Then I decided to leave him. He got the flat. I ended up with a week-old baby and my little boy, and I was doing more drugs because I was down.
Me and my brother did know something was wrong. I was kind of young, so I didn't know what to do with that, but my brother sat me down and said, "I think something's wrong with Mummy."
I tried to kill myself in the bath, cut my wrists. But this little voice said to me, "Don't be selfish, you've got 2 lovely kids there, get yourself together." First night we went to M-PACT, the thing I liked about it, they involved my kids. Like, we was like a little family in there. My kids understood more about, the situation I was in. When I was on the drink and that, it was all about me. I had time for them, but they'd come home with work they'd want to show me, and I'd go, "Yeah, that's brilliant." But the next day you asked me about that, didn't have a clue. Where I'd come home from M-PACT, and me and the kids would sit there and talk about our night.
Kids got taken into separate rooms, and then adults got taken into separate rooms. I'd normally wouldn't really talk to people because they would normally say, "Your mum's been on drugs and your mum's alcoholic and that." But in M-PACT you could be free and you could just let out your feelings because no one would have judged you. They wouldn't have. When my mum was on drugs and an alcoholic, we didn't really used to be together as much. We still used to love each other, but not as much as we do now because of M-PACT's brought us together. Now she takes us for a day out. We have like family time. We play games. She's not going to meet people for like drugs, or she's not going down the shop to get a drink. We know that she's like safe now.
My mum's been an alcoholic for about 10, 12 years. It all started when I was about the age of 2, and she used to get violent.
I'd come home and I wouldn't know whether she'd be drunk and asleep or drunk and up and fighting.
My final sort of couple of 3 years of drinking was up to 3 bottles of wine a day. I'd go into blackout. I couldn't even remember drinking or buying the 3rd bottle sometimes, which is really sad, but you know, that's what it does to you.
Well, I have my first memory going downstairs for a bottle of milk, and then she turned around and went flipped out. And I couldn't understand why, because I was so young. I didn't really understand what it was until I was about 8. Then I got angry at other people because I thought it was my fault. No one told me it wasn't. I thought, well, this isn't right. You know, making my own meals most of the time because Mum's not able to. I started misbehaving in school. I wouldn't attend lessons. I developed anxiety, and I got diagnosed with depression.
Although it affects the addict, I think the effect is worse on the family. She'd be smashing things. So I'd get hold of her and try and get her down on the floor and stop her from doing that. And can you imagine as a child watching that happen? I mean, it's awful.
We did have social services involved, to my shame. It was either she went into care or I had to leave the house, so I left.
M-PACT got the 2 of them to try and get the mother to understand what she was doing to the daughter.
I don't think I really said much on the first one, but I did listen, and I felt more and more comfortable in the room than I did at my own house. I was actually getting heard. I wasn't suppressing anything. I met other kids like me. I didn't feel like I was the only one.
When they came into my home, I thought to myself, look, I've been managing this for 10 years possibly. What in the hell could they possibly do for me? Well, now I've been through the system. They do a fantastic job. I started to understand what addiction was all about. I started to understand that there were things I couldn't control, and things just got better.
I've gone without antidepressants altogether. I think it's mainly because of M-PACT. They've been so supportive. And it is true, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And M-PACT made me and my mum stronger.
My daughter's 16, and now, through my sobriety, we've got a fantastic relationship. And I just say that, like, M-PACT absolutely saved my life.
My daughter had lost respect for me because of my drug use, and I needed help to build those bridges back.
I live with my mum, and then I go and see my dad every other weekend. But I think he knew, but I don't think he knew the extent. Because I was quite young, I think, when it all started, it was just things that I'd noticed as I was growing up that weren't quite normal. You don't really know much about drugs when you're little, but you kind of, as you learn about it, just things clicked.
It's quite painful to think of some of the things that I've done. There were times when I let her on her own to nip up the road and get what I needed to get. And I'm not very proud of that.
Because she didn't know that I knew, she didn't think it affected me. She thought that she could do it and that I wouldn't notice.
I don't think she would have wanted to live with me much longer. I think she'd had enough. But I think coming here, we seem to be able to build our relationship back together.
The children had a meeting and the parents had a meeting, and that would be like confidential. Sometimes it's still important to be able to say those things, but not to them. I didn't dislike her, but we'd get on better. It helped her to see what it was like for me as well.
We do talk and we do spend time around each other, which we weren't doing before. I don't want to be back using and drinking. It's not going to help me. You know, I needed some guidance to deal with situations and family stuff. And M-PACT helped that.
Started off very early, about 13, drinking. That was my primary addiction for a long time. But I have to say, for the last 10 years, I've been a heavy skunk, dope, any of that variety. And although it started off maybe 5 or 6 a day, very quickly it sort of went for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 a day, until that was all I did. Get my daughter to school, smoke, pick her up, smoke, end of, bed, get up, do it again. I had gone into massive isolation at this point and very rarely took her out. The fact that she was so much my carer, her life consisted about worrying about me, trying to mother me. Shall I get this for you, mummy? Shall I do this for you, mummy? And me relying on her youth, that she doesn't really know what's going on. Yeah, I sort of didn't really, I have to say in truth, take her feelings into account. It was all about me. Definitely, it was all about me and me using. Because of me and the secret, she hasn't spoken to anybody. She never talked about her feelings, not to me, not to anybody. And coming to this programme has actually started her opening up at school, which she would never ever have done before because she sort of knew something's not right, but I know I'm not meant to tell. A lot of it learning about how they were feeling was fantastic. We all thought we were being secret about it. They knew everything. They know everything. What I think they found difficult was that we were pretending it wasn't happening. Now she has a voice, thank God, and this place has given her that voice.
My family, I have my little brother and my mum and my dad, but I'm living with my nan and granddad at the moment because my mum has got to be sober for a certain amount of time.
I really want to stay at my mum and dad's permanently and just go over to my granddad's for visits.
Dad works all day and he gets back quite late, so we're not allowed to go home alone with mum. I really, really, really love her really so much. She's a really great mum, like the best mum ever. But when she's drinking, I don't like her. I think it started when I was about 4. Yeah, so it's been going on for quite a long time.
When I was little, my mum used to steal a lot of my money because she was drunk. It made me feel upset and angry and sad at the same time.
She argues with Dad a lot, but really aggressively, and she doesn't really care much about stuff. I thought, oh, it's just normal, but now when I look back on things, they were quite bad.
She normally very angry at nearly everything I say. I'm too scared to go and say, "Are you drunk?" to Mummy because I'm scared that it might upset her.
If we have problems at home, we can talk to them, and it just makes me feel a bit better getting it off my chest.
Has anyone got any words or feelings that come to mind?
I've got more confidence and I've understood more about alcohol and that I'm not the only one. We got someone to talk to. It's just nice having that.
We're hopeful that we'll get more and more people to invest in this, in seeing this roll out, because it's a huge value, I think, to the families themselves, to the individuals within the families, to the communities in which they live, and to all of us ultimately.
I've been working in the addiction and family field for around 15 years now. So I've done a range of local, national and international work around the area of the impact of addiction on families. We want to give children a range of ways to express themselves, which mirrors kind of very much what the facilitators aim to do in an M-PACT programme. I think some of the most powerful outcomes, there's been examples of parents recognising very strongly through taking part in M-PACT of how addictions affected their kind of family, that they've been motivated to engage and go on to complete substance misuse treatment. What M-PACT also seems to do is change and to facilitate kind of healthier communication. They're spending more time together. Parents are able to better meet the needs of their children. There are better bonds between kind of families that overall lead them to be healthier. They learn how to stay safe, and these can be unsafe environments in which children and families live. Children have said that M-PACT can help them feel less sad, feel less angry, feel more confident. Some children talk about getting on better at school, and it can bring resilience. Learning how to cope with adversity and how to minimise the kind of negative effects of these adversities.
The staff gave me a quote from a child. I think, what was she, 13 or something? She said, "I learnt that I sparkle." And giving a child a chance to sparkle, or to even recognise they do sparkle, is a wonderful thing in itself.
I didn't cause it.
I can't cure it.
I can't control it.
I can help take care of myself by communicating my feelings, making healthy choices, and celebrating me.